Long before Silicon Valley and modern coding languages, there was Ada Lovelace, a woman who saw the future of technology when no one else could. In a time when women were discouraged from studying math and science, she defied society and wrote the first ever computer program, more than a century before computers even existed. She didn't just crunch numbers. She envisioned machines creating music, processing data, and transforming society. She predicted concepts like artificial intelligence long before they could even dream of being a reality. Ada Lovelace wasn't just ahead of her time. She programmed the future. Augusta Ada Byron, Countess of Lovelace, was born in 1815. She was the only quote-unquote legitimate child of the famous poet Lord Byron and his wife. All of her other siblings were from her father's extramarital activities. Her mother, Anne Isabella Milbank, or Lady Byron, was a very progressive person. She was an outspoken abolitionist, a philanthropist, and an educational reformer. In fact, she started the very first industrial school in England. Her independence and strength were definitely needed to raise Ada. Lord Byron left her when Ada was only a month old, and then he left England forever. He was wild and unpredictable, but her mother was determined to keep Ada from inheriting his rebellious ways and immersed her in mathematics and science from a young age. Ada was naturally very brilliant and always very curious. She was fascinated by how things worked and loved machines and engineering from a young age. When she was 12, she designed a flying machine that was steam-powered and had bird-like wings, and so she was always very interested in making things. She received an elite education focused on math and science. This was super rare for the time. Usually women didn't study things like that. That was seen as more the man's realm, but that was what fascinated her mind, and that's what she wanted to do. And since she was from a rich family, she could. She was privately tutored in math and science by some of the greatest minds of the era, including Mary Somerville, Michael Faraday, and Charles Babbage. When she was 17 or 18, she met Charles Babbage for the first time. He was a mathematician and inventor. He's actually known as the father of the computer. They became friends, even though he was much older, but he became her mentor. He saw in her what she saw in herself. She said, "I believe myself to possess a most singular combination of qualities exactly fitted to make me preeminently a discoverer of the hidden realities of nature." Babbage was already a famous mathematician, and he had invented something called the difference engine, which was an early mechanical calculator. But he was impressed with her. He could have had his pick of anybody help him with his research, but her talent for advanced mathematics set her apart. And Babbage often referred to her as the enchantress of numbers. When he developed plans for the analytical engine, the first conceptual design for a general-purpose computer, Ada became deeply involved in the process. When Babbage went to publish his initial plans for the machine, a lot of scientists could not see his vision. They didn't get it. And so when other scientists and mathematicians were trying to suss out the work, it really wasn't fully formed. There was an Italian mathematician named Luigi Menabrea, and he wrote an article in French about it, and Ada was asked to translate it. She did, but then she also added about 3 times more information than was in the article based on her own ideas and theorizations. In the notes, she described how the machine could process instructions beyond simple calculations, essentially dreaming up and envisioning the very first computer program. The analytical engine was never built. It was only ever theorized, but based on her calculations, it probably would have run correctly if it had ever been built. Based on her work and how she added to the process, she is considered by many to be the very first computer programmer ever, with her methodology being called the world's first computer program. She even theorized that machines could create music by processing patterns, kind of foresight on things like AI and machine learning. She was absolutely ahead of her time, and she said that brain of mine is something more than merely mortal, as time will show. And she was right. Unfortunately, her work was largely forgotten for over a century, and Babbage got all the credit. But around the 1950s, people rediscovered her notes, and she finally started getting credit for her work. Her influence has transcended literal centuries. The U.S. Department of Defense named its programming language Ada in her honor. She has been shown in books and films and is now a symbol for women in STEM. She was a genius and a visionary. She defied gender norms by pursuing mathematics, logic, and science in an era when women were excluded from the field. She invented computer programming before there were even computers. She envisioned the potential of computers as more than number crunching machines and predicted modern computing processes. She paved the way for generations of women in technology and is a symbol of female innovation. Ada Lovelace didn't just imagine the future. She wrote the code for it.